The Nightly Business Report.
Good evening. Tonight, Sri Lanka Central Bank keeps policy rate steady at 7.75%, citing inflation control and economic growth support. Sri Lanka's export sector achieves over $11.5 billion in revenue during first 8 months of 2025. Sri Lanka stock market sees modest gains with ASPI and S&P SL20 posting slight increases. And Wall Street slips as investors react to Powell's hawkish remarks on interest rates.
From Studio 24C with Prithika Sivakumar.
Good evening and welcome to the Nightly Business Report. Sri Lanka's central bank has kept its policy rate steady at 7.75%, aiming to guide inflation toward the 5% target while supporting economic growth. The decision reflects cautious optimism amid improving domestic demand and global uncertainties. Sri Lanka's central bank maintained its policy rate at 7.75% to support inflation targeting and economic growth. Headline inflation turned positive in August 2025 after nearly a year of deflation and is expected to gradually rise to 5% by mid-2026. The economy grew by an estimated 4.8% in the first half of 2025, with momentum continuing into the third quarter. Private sector credit expanded significantly, supported by low interest rates and recovering economic activity. Despite a widening trade deficit, strong inflows from tourism and remittances helped maintain foreign reserves at $6.2 billion. The central bank will continue monitoring risk and remains ready to adjust policy to ensure inflation stability and sustained growth. Sri Lanka plans to invite local and foreign investors to produce caustic soda and chlorine at Paranthan Chemicals Limited through a public-private partnership, announced Minister Nalin Jayatissa. A feasibility study has been completed to restart the manufacturing plant on the company's 30-acre factory premises. The cabinet has approved the proposal to seek investors for this strategically important project. Currently, Sri Lanka imports all its chlorine for water treatment, posing risk due to potential global supply chain disruptions. Establishing local chlorine production is seen as vital for national water security and is expected to create around 95 direct and 2,000 indirect jobs. Sri Lanka's export sector demonstrated strong growth in the first 8 months of 2025, with total exports exceeding $11.54 billion, marking a 6.61% year-on-year increase. Sri Lanka's export sector showed strong resilience in the first 8 months of 2025, with total exports reaching over $11.54 billion, a 6.61% increase compared to last year. August 2025 marked the highest revenue for the month, with exports exceeding $1.6 billion, driven by growth in both merchandise and services sector. Merchandise exports grew 6.89% year-on-year to over $9.9 billion, supported by key sectors like gems, petroleum, tea, and coconut-based products. Services exports rose 5.57% to $2.46 billion, led by growth in ICT, transport, and logistics. The Export Development Board is confident of reaching the $19 billion export target for 2025, aligned with a broader strategy to boost exports to $36 billion by 2030. The government of Sri Lanka signed an €8 million grant agreement with the European Union on September 23, 2025 to support a new initiative focused on biodiversity conservation and solid waste management. The project, led by the Ministry of Public Administration and the Ministry of Environment, aims to restore degraded ecosystems, promote sustainable land use, and improve waste management systems to protect the environment and public health. This effort aligns with Sri Lanka's national policy statement, "A Thriving Nation, a Beautiful Life," emphasizing the balance between economic development and environmental sustainability. The EU's support brings technology, experience, and private sector investment to strengthen Sri Lanka's environmental policies under the Global Gateway strategy. Let's take a short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Sri Lanka's stock market saw modest gains today with both key indices recording slight increases. Investors showed cautious optimism as the market closed on a positive note. For further insights on this, we have Salama Sanun from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Jenna. The Colombo Stock Exchange witnessed a session that showed increased volatility. However, both the All-Share Price Index and the S&P SL20 managed to close in positive territory. The All-Share Price Index registered a gain of around 56 points and closed at 21,338. The index remained within the green zone throughout the session but fluctuated heavily. Selinco Holdings, LB Finance, Haley's PLC, Central Finance Company and Commercial Bank stood out as the top positive contributors to the index. Both retail and high net worth participation was moderate today. Turnover stood at 5.6 billion rupees, reflecting around 22% of a decrease over the monthly average, which stands at around 7.1 billion rupees. The capital goods sector recorded the highest turnover with a share of 27%, while the diversified financial sector and the banking sector followed behind with a combined contribution of 30%. The top three gainers for the day were Mercantile Shipping Company, UB Finance and York Arcade Holdings, whereas the top three price losers were SMB Finance Non-Voting, EML Consultants and Test Agro Voting. Thank you.
Sri Lanka conducted its weekly Treasury bill auction today, offering short-term government securities to investors. The auction plays a key role in managing public debt and gauging market sentiment on interest rates. For further insights on this, we have Akna Thinnukon from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Jenna. Today, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka concluded its fifth monetary policy review announcement. Accordingly, the overnight policy rate was held unchanged at 7.75% following the careful assessment of both domestic and global developments. The central bank holds the view that the current monetary policy stance would support steering inflation towards a target of 5% and cites this as a key factor behind today's decision. Moving ahead, the central bank also held its weekly Treasury bill auction today, which saw average weighted yields hold firm across the board, while the amount raised fell slightly below the targeted offer of 38 billion rupees. The 3-month bill raised 3.2 billion, while the 12-month raised close to 2 billion rupees, as both maturities fell substantially short of meeting their initial stated offer amounts. In line with the trend that we have seen over the past couple of weeks, the 6-month bill saw the most demand, with the accepted amount standing at around 29 billion, which is more than double the initial offer, which stands at 12 billion rupees. All in all, this auction raised a total of 34.4 billion rupees, while yields held steady across the board. Thank you.
Gold prices steadied in Asian trade today, remaining close to recent record highs as overnight comments from U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell sparked heightened caution over growth, inflation and interest rates. Spot gold rose 0.3% to $3,776.20 per ounce, while gold futures fell 0.2% to $3,808.50 an ounce. Other metals advanced today, with spot platinum up 0.6% to $1,485.41 an ounce, while spot silver rose 0.5% to $44.02 an ounce. Among industrial metals, benchmark copper futures on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.1% to $9,999.95 a ton, while COMEX copper futures rose slightly to $4.06 a pound. Gold and other precious metals benefited from increased haven demand, while sustained weakness in the dollar also kept metals mostly well bid. Oil prices extended gains in Asian trading today, lifted by a stalled deal to resume exports from Iraq's Kurdistan region and a larger-than-expected draw in U.S. crude inventories, while growing geopolitical risk around Russia also supported the market. Brent oil futures expiring in November rose 0.4% to $67.88 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude futures also gained 0.4% to $63.68 per barrel. The American Petroleum Institute said yesterday that U.S. crude stocks fell by 3.82 million barrels in the week ended September 19th. Gasoline inventories also declined, though distillates rose modestly. The data pointed to resilient demand and a tighter near-term balance in the world's largest oil consumer. The Sri Lankan rupee remained steady against the US dollar at commercial banks in Sri Lanka today compared to yesterday. However, its performance against other regional currencies has been mixed, with the LKR depreciating by 2.21% year-to-date among emerging market currencies. Factors such as a widening trade deficit and increased import demand have contributed to this decline. Let's take a closer look on how the Sri Lankan rupee has performed against other major global currencies. Short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Phoenix Ogilvy Sri Lanka and Sri Lankan Airlines have made history by securing Sri Lanka's first ever APAC FE award. Their award-winning Relieve the Epic of the Ramayana Trail campaign earned bronze for its powerful impact on tourism and cultural storytelling. Phoenix Ogilvy Sri Lanka and Sri Lankan Airlines have made history by winning Sri Lanka's first ever APAC FE award. The bronze FE was awarded for their campaign Relieve the Epic of the Ramayana Trail, which was the only shortlisted entry in the travel and tourism category across the Asia-Pacific region. The campaign strategically targeted Indian travelers by reimagining the Ramayana as a modern spiritual journey through Sri Lanka, highlighting 20 significant sites. It played a vital role in boosting inbound tourism during a critical period for the country's economy. The recognition affirms the campaign's creative and strategic impact, competing against top entries from 12 territories. The recognition affirms the campaign's creative and strategic impact, competing against top entries from 12 territories. Ocean Lanka Private Limited has officially opened its state-of-the-art multifunctional building at the Begama Export Processing Zone, marking a major step forward in Sri Lanka's synthetic textile industry. The new facility strengthens Ocean Lanka's position as a regional leader in innovative, sustainable and high-performance fabric manufacturing with a focus on activewear, intimate wear and fashion textiles. The MFB houses the Development and Innovation Center featuring cutting-edge technology for research, digital printing and sustainable textile engineering. This expansion will significantly boost the company's in-house synthetic fabric output and reduce reliance on imported raw materials. Designed with sustainability in mind, the MFB meets global environmental standards like ISO 14001, Oeco-Tex and BlueSign. Ceylon Bank has become the exclusive financier for the second phase of a 10-megawatt solar power project in Batiklo, advancing Sri Lanka's renewable energy goals. The project, developed by Surya Shakti Private Limited, supports the nation's shift towards sustainable and clean energy. Ceylon Bank PLC has been announced as the sole financier for the 10 megawatts Phase 2 solar power plant in Navatkadi, Batiklo, developed by Surya Shakti Private Limited, a joint venture between Winforce PLC and Vidul Lanka PLC. Building on the success of Phase 1, this new project adds another 10 megawatts of clean energy to Sri Lanka's national grid, supporting the country's push toward renewable energy and sustainability. Ceylon Bank provided 3.5 billion rupees under an Islamic banking structure to finance both phases, reinforcing its commitment to innovative sustainable project financing. Plant, constructed on land adjacent to Phase 1, directly contributes to national energy independence and reduces carbon emissions. This collaboration highlights the growing role of financial institutions in driving Sri Lanka's green energy transition and strengthening infrastructure development. Kandurata Umbrella Industries Private Limited unveiled its innovative two-folding umbrella tea plug-in backpack at Industry Expo 2025 held from September 18 to 21st at the Sirimavo Bandaranaike Memorial Exhibition Centre. This new product offers a practical and durable solution for tea pluckers, replacing traditional cane baskets with a versatile backpack featuring a fixed umbrella to withstand harsh weather conditions. Despite suffering a devastating fire at their Gampala factory in July 2025, Kandurata resumed production within a month and showcased their full product range at the expo. The company, known for its iconic penguin brand, impressed visitors including President Andrakumara Dissanayake, who visited their stall. Organized by the Ministry of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development, Industry Expo 2025 featured 450 stands from 25 industrial sectors. Let's take a short commercial break. Global business updates coming on the other side. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Most Asian stocks retreated today, tracking overnight losses on Wall Street amid growing uncertainty over the path of US interest rates, with technology shares losing more than ground after a strong rally in recent weeks. Japan's Nikkei 225 and Topix indexes fell slightly as trade resumed after a holiday yesterday. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was an outlier in Asian markets, rising 0.9% on strength in local tech shares. China's Shanghai Shenzhen, CSI 300 and Shanghai Composite Indexes also outpaced their Asian peers today, rising 0.4% to 0.5%. South Korea's Kospi fell 0.6% and was the worst hit by losses in regional technology stocks. Singapore's Straits Times Index shed 0.2%, while India's Nifty 50 Index fell 0.4%, extending losses amid little progress in trade talks between New Delhi and Washington. US stocks finished lower, ending a three-day run of record highs after Fed Chair Jerome Powell said policymakers must balance inflation concerns with signs of a weakening job market in future rate decisions.
U.S. stocks finished lower on Tuesday, with the Dow dropping about 0.2%, the S&P 500 shedding more than 0.5%, and the Nasdaq losing about 1%. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell offered few clues as to when the central bank might next cut interest rates. The Fed reduced rates last week by 0.25 percentage point in what was its first rate cut of the year.
Britain's biggest car maker, Jaguar Land Rover, is extending the closure of its factories until October 1st, following a cyber attack in early September, which has left its operations paralyzed and smaller suppliers struggling.
Britain's biggest car maker, Jaguar Land Rover, is extending the closure of its factories until October the 1st. It follows a cyber attack in early September, which has hit its operations and left smaller suppliers struggling. The luxury car maker, owned by India's Tata Motors, said in a statement on Tuesday it was preparing plans to resume production. JLR's 3 factories in Britain produce around 1,000 cars per day. The group is said to be losing tens of millions of dollars, with many of its 33,000 staff told to stay at home. There's also concern about the impact of the stoppage on JLR's British supply chain, as it includes many smaller companies and supports over 100,000 jobs across the country. The Unite trade union has warned of job losses and said government support would be needed. Britain's government said last week it was working closely with JLR to understand the impact on its supply chain.
That wraps up today's Nightly Business Report. We value your opinion. Share your thoughts and feedback with us through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. We will see you again tomorrow with the latest updates in the business globe. Vinut Varnasurya will meet you next with other Derana Sports Central. Until then, I'm Prithika Sivakumar. Thank you for watching. Have a very good night.